All right, so might be a little tricky to see here, but this here is my combined spacecraft. They all have this basic tug package, of which I'm going to use all of that available thrust to help me get to the Mun.
Disgusting! You should stop it right now!
I just basically connected these here. There's a, as you can see, there's two docking ports here, which got these two joined together. So this here is the lander module. There's all sorts of fun stuff on board, but it's a self-contained lander module. And then this here is the service module. So this has the crew compartment where both Jebediah and Bob are right now. And it also has its own kind of proprietary fuel system and RCS system. So it's good to go on it under its own power, but it's a heavy aircraft and I want to make sure I've got enough juice to bring everything back once it's all set. So as you can see, I'm going to go here to apoapsis. I'm going to set up a burn. And I'm going to end up going, and I'm going to have an inner encounter with the Mun in a day and 3 hours, going 440 at a distance of 448,000 meters. But I think I should be able to adjust that somewhat once I'm in flight. That's about the closest I can get right now, but I can adjust it so I'm a little bit closer. Here we go. Now we've got a periaps of 16,000 meters. That's a little bit better. I've got about 9 minutes before that node happens. Right now I've got the rockets. The first stage rockets are the rockets on this lander module. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that there is a probe core here because it's going to have to be piloted by remote because Bob's going to be the one going down to the surface and Bob's none too bright. So he's going to be the one doing a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to fly via probe core. And fortunately, I'm not to the tech level where Jebediah can fly the thing for Bob remotely. Not yet, but soon. You can see my gimbals in action there. So I'm going to make sure that these engines here are disabled. They are disabled. So these two engines first, then these two engines. But I'm going to want to shed this extra mass here. So where is that? There it is. Put that on a new stage and put that in between here. So I've got these two engines, pop it off, these two engines, pop that off, and then the big thruster there, which should take me more than the rest of the way to the moon. Should be more than enough to get me to the moon and back. And of course I've got the engine on the Lunar lander, which of course I want to save as much of that as possible. Yeah, so I want to save as much of that energy as possible so that way I can go land on the moon and hopefully return with science to the ship so that everybody can go back to Kerbal safe and sound. I don't want to say I love you. There is 4 minutes 41 seconds to the next node. Now this is one of my favorite little things that they've added in the new thing here. Is you can literally click up ahead of the node and warp to the next maneuver. Let's go ahead and do that. And see, it'll go ahead and auto pause us. Usually it's like a minute or two before. There's an algorithm that'll tell you exactly how long it takes. It's usually at the very minimum whatever your burn time would equal before the thing. So if you've got a 1 minute 40 second burn, then it would be that much before. You know what I'm saying? So like you'd be at least a minute and 40 seconds before your node. And I really only have one shot at this, so I'm kind of hoping this works out, because if it doesn't work out, it'll be kind of hilariously embarrassing. See, my apoapsis is rising. I've got 70 meters a second left of delta V. 10, 20, that stage is gone. Uh-oh. Let's see here. Not sure what just separated. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and select over here, control from here. And I'm going to activate this engine. Oh no.
Quite a decent shake here.
Well, that didn't work out. Note to self. Make sure, well, I guess it turned me around really quickly.
Yep, no, it's just stopped. No, we're fine.
So, make sure that the engines are throttled down before you activate them. So I'm going to go ahead and activate them both now and go ahead and start boosting towards my final objective here. Apoapsis is still growing. Need about 400 total meters second delta V. Almost burned through that stage. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and pop that stage off and burn from the service module. So all the tug engines are gone. It is now just the primary spacecraft and the lander hauling ass towards the future here. I have 1,000 meters a second delta V left in this stage, 320 meters a second of delta V left to go to achieve the required orbit. I can sit here and follow the blue reticle, and that will put me pretty close on path. The algorithm that controls the location of the blue reticle and the nav ball is unfortunately not perfect, but that's something that you pick up with skill, and honestly it's a lot easier to do than it was when I initially started playing this game. Oh, wasn't paying attention there. So we can see actually that currently is going to put us on a collision course with the moon, that's cutting it a little bit too close for comfort personally, so let's just burn towards the target. Yeah, there we go. There we go, 25,000 periaps, that's perfect. Right, so from this point, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the ship to be mothballed for travel, because it's going to take me about 5 hours to get to where I'm going to go. And if I click up here on my resources, you can see I've got a significant amount of battery power on this thing, but I've got all these lights on. So let's go ahead and let's turn the lights off. Still drawing a little bit of electric charge. Let's turn SAS off. Still drawing a teensy amount of electric charge, but that's no problem. And then let's go ahead and rotate so that my solar panels are in the light.
Illegal, unfamily-friendly, unwholesome, and especially unchristian.
This is specifically why I brought a scientist along. I'll leave Jebediah in the ship, and I'm going to let Bob come out of the ship, turning on RCS. And just kind of slowly but surely kind of boosting him to where he needs to go. Perfect. Let's see, collect the data on that goo and restore functionality. Alright, that'll be ready to go again. And while he's out here, I can click on him and have him take an EVA report. Not worth any science, but good to know. And then I'm going to have him get back in. Okay. So I have now gotten all the science that I can here. So that's high orbit. So I'm going to go ahead and... oh, look, it kept my navigation. That's wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and steer towards my next point. Okay. I've now locked onto my next point. So it should follow that point across the sky. So if I'm pointing at that right now, when I zoom forward, that will be where I need to burn pointing in the right direction of where I need to burn once I get up to speed here. So I'm going to go ahead and click warp to next maneuver. Now, notice I have shitloads of monopropellant on board, but I'm using primarily, despite all of these thrusters everywhere that would make it very convenient to not have to use them, I'm using primarily reaction wheels to maneuver because electricity is renewable, unlike the monopropellant, and also, more importantly, it's just more controllable. I've got 2 reaction wheels here. I've got one here and I've got one here. So, alright, talked a little bit too long. I'm starting my burn a little bit late. Shouldn't actually matter all that much. Maybe lost a couple seconds of optimal delta V. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out once I start the burn to map mode to make sure that I don't overburn. Right now, I appear to be over a pretty cool looking crater, so I'm going to go ahead and do some more science here. So Bob is going to go EVA, and okay, Bob can take an EVA report just over the moon's east far side crater. Definitely want that. It was worth 19.2 science. I'm going to go ahead and have him hop off here, and have him get close enough to operate this. He's a scientist, so he can actually observe. He can directly manipulate these from outside the ship. So this is worth 5.5 science. Beautiful. Collect the data. Reset the container. Perfect. Just board that back up. Just for the sake of expediting, I'm not going to sit here and science whore this out with several orbits. I'm going to go ahead and board and transfer the crew through this crew hatch into this container. So I'm going to click transfer crew. Oop. Click on the other one. Transfer crew. Bob Kerman. Transfer. And you see now that this is where I'm going, and this is where I can go to. So go ahead and click there. And now they are in different containers. So I can actually decouple this, and then this will be its own spacecraft. So let's go ahead and do that. Jebediah will be just fine here in orbit on his own until I return. Just to make sure he's easier to find, I'm going to go ahead and extend his antenna. So it'll be easier to find. The antenna on the lunar lander is already extended. That's a story for a different time, why that is, but we are good. So I'm going to go ahead and undock. Now I'm in control of this ship, but I want to be in control of this one, so I'll just hit the bracket key, and boom, now I'm Bob Kerman. Now Bob's a scientist, he's not a pilot, so that's why I've got this probe core here. I'm going to go ahead, turn on the RCS and SAS, and see. Now, if you notice how when I have both and done, if I move at all, it moves me more than what SAS alone would do. So it's actually a better idea to turn off SAS when you're maneuvering. Alright, didn't collide with the main ship here. Let's go ahead and get away from them a little bit. And I'm going to actually burn prograde here, or retrograde here. And I'm going to try and fall out of orbit. I want to land somewhere. Honestly, it'd be nice to land in this crater over here. But I think I'm actually going to try and land on this highland here. Just somewhere in here. Just try and land. I have this tiny little engine here. Alright, so you can see now that I'm starting to fall in towards Earth. So I'm currently set up where I'm tracking the speed as orbital speed. I'm going to put that speed relative to the surface because that's what's important for me not crashing and burning. And for right now I'm just using SAS, but later I will turn on my RCS and do everything with that because it's actually easier to manipulate, but I want to get further down. So you can see that as I bleed angular momentum, I'm still not necessarily bleeding vertical momentum. So I'm going to step this up just a little bit more. And I should be able to make the rest of the landing with RCS from here because I have enough thrusters and enough fuel of RCS on board I should be able to land it from here. Try and keep my speed relatively low. I'm getting close to the surface, about 1,500 meters. Well, that's less than ideal. Let's see if I can't fix this. There we go. Kerbal physics, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so I've got 28 monopropellant left. I'm going to try and save all of that for docking in space. But I've got the oxidizer necessary, and I think it's reasonably certain that I can meet back up with Bob Kerman in orbit and make this a possibility. So let's go ahead and do some science here on the surface. First off, going to go ahead and make a crew report.
Disgusting.
Look at all this beautiful science I'm getting here. 38 science, 25 science. Like, this is good stuff. And let's hop on out. Alrighty. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the data from these things here, just in case I can get another reading while I'm taking off. And can climb down this ladder here. Might have to take some finagling to get back up that ladder, but for right now that seems to work. Let's go ahead and plant a flag, shall we? We come in the name of science.
Disgusting.
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take a surface sample here. Ooh, 96 science. Tasty stuff. Try and grab on here. Okay, perfect. We can access this one. Observe mystery goo. Reset the goo container, just in case. Alright. See, there's all this other stuff here. There's some photovoltaic panels and an experiment monitor. I'm going to go ahead and start unpacking this. Sits on the surface. Rotates to align itself to the sun, like a pretty little sunflower. And is now generating power. And I can use that to power experiments. So I'm going to get over here and grab an experiment module. See, it's got a little goo canister and a camera, and it's just looking at it. go. I can pick it up. I can see that it's producing science. It's producing 35% of science. It's not transmitting anything because it doesn't have a transmitter, so let's go ahead and get that set up. Extends a little antenna, and it's going to start transmitting science. You can click on here and see that it's got power. It's got one experiment connected. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this set up. And hopefully, if I can figure out the editing software through editing magic, I will be able to speed this up for you. So I'll have a fully functioning base here in just a second. Hold on.
Now we're going to bring up the razor tool, and you can do this by hitting C on your keyboard, which is a shortcut for it, or you can go on the side toolbar here and select the razor tool. Now with this selected, you can actually click
Alright, so you can see now that I have this module enabled, and it is now producing science. It has 11.5 million meters as the first hop. That can't be right, but possibly. Who knows? I've got 2 of these guys going. I don't know how effective they'll be because I think I misjudged here. I think that this experiment control station actually takes 2 power just for itself. But I'm going to leave them both up here because even if they're working slowly or only part of the time, it's better to have both than none. And it's less weight that I've got to take home with me. Alright, so I think at this point I'm ready to attempt a risky rendezvous back home, back with the ship above. Hopefully not using too much of my fuel in the process. Let's see, so that ship is coming back around, and it is hustling. It has 539 meters a second of lateral motion, so I think I'm going to need the majority of everything I can, but as long as I can get this thing into a stable orbit, I'll be good, because this ship has plenty of maneuvering fuel and RCS, as is intended, to make a mate up with this other ship possible. So that's just try and get into orbit, but just to make things a little easier on me, I'm going to go ahead and zoom up time until this is a little bit closer to overhead, so that way I don't have to spend as much time fiddling about. And there he is. I'm going to call that's probably sufficient. And I am, or should be at this point, good to take off. Alright, well, I want to get one shot at this. Bob, I hope you don't die. I mean that in the best way possible. I don't think that I'm going to be able to save this craft. Let's see. I'm going to try to get this thing into orbit, but I have got a feeling that Bob Kerman is stuffed. Well, nothing for it. Bob Kerman is stuffed, that's for sure.